Welcome everyone to Listening to the Wind, the International Windship Association's interview series, which allows me to sit with pioneers, innovators, experts and entrepreneurs in the wind propulsion technology segment. And I'm delighted to say that I'm sitting here with Chris Knox, CEO of Insensys, Integrated Sensing System, the global leader in fiber optic strain measurement, not management. The company's been helping to optimize offshore wind and is now going even further offshore and engaging with wind propulsion. Hello, Chris.
Hi there,
welcome.
Gab. Thank you very much for having me.
Oh, no, it's my pleasure. And I'm going to give you a quick introduction, and then I'm going to hand it straight over to you for a short presentation about your company, about what you do, and some of the exciting developments going forward. So Chris joined the company in 2007, and as I say, he's currently the CEO. He joined as a business development engineer, working through a number of senior roles within the company, until finally becoming the managing director in 2012. So a great background, a meteoric rise, if you don't mind me saying.
Thank you very much.
Fantastic. So we're in good hands to hear about the sensing world, what that is going to mean for wind propulsion technologies going forward as well. So I'm going to hand over the screen and the controls to you, Chris.
Great, thank you very much. Right. Thanks very much for that, Gavin. Hello, everybody. Thank you for the opportunity to introduce Insensys. I will start by giving some highlights about our business. So Insensys, what we do, we design and manufacture fiber optic measurement systems. As Gavin mentioned, we were founded just over 20 years ago in 2002. We're based in Fareham on the south coast of the UK, so that's halfway between Southampton and Portsmouth. We now have around 80 employees, and although we started as a technology startup company 20 years ago, we then had a period of corporate ownership. We are now a private company again. We've been private and independent for the last 4 years. So over our 20-year history, we have now installed 7,500 fiber optic sensing systems. And as Gavin mentioned, those are predominantly in the wind energy sector. Our primary market is blade load control systems for wind turbines. But our interest here, and what we're talking about today, is our interest in wind propulsion. And this is optimizing through sensing control applications for maximizing wind capture within the assisted wind market. Our products, we have some pictures of our products at the bottom there. Now, a unique selling point about our system is it is a very ruggedized sensing system for measuring stresses and loads, temperature or pressure, but very much in harsh environments. That's our unique selling point. So our technology is designed to last in wind turbines, which is a very harsh environment, lots of vibrations, lots of temperature changes, hot and cold, lots of salt content in the air. And our systems are designed to operate for 25 years of the working life of a turbine with minimal maintenance. So that's really the unique selling point of our sensing system. So how did we get here over the last 20 years? What have we been doing? Well, our very first project was actually in the marine sector. So the reason the company was founded was because we designed and we manufactured the carbon fiber masts on the super yacht, the Maltese Falcon. So once we had done that project, that took several years. We were then looking around at what else we could do with sensing technology, and that's when we discovered the offshore wind energy market. So in 2005, we started working with some pioneers in the wind energy sector, developing this control application, individual pitch control, which is where we can measure the loads on each blade and then change the pitch angle of each blade to optimize the wind capture and therefore the wind production. The reason we found that sector was because of the composite materials used in the blades. Our fiber optic system lends itself very much to integrating in that carbon structure. Then in 2015, we entered the onshore wind energy market. That was a progression from the offshore. The turbines were getting bigger and bigger, the blades longer and longer, and so control systems were becoming more and more important for the onshore sector. And now our business is very much about 50% onshore and 50% offshore. And then since we've become independent again from 2020, We're looking at new markets. We're looking at markets with synergies to wind energy, which is where obviously we have the bulk of our experience. And wind propulsion, wind-assisted propulsion, we can see very much coming forwards over the next few years. And given our track record within the marine sector with the Maltese Falcon and other dyno rigs, we feel this is a wonderful opportunity for Insensys to be pushing back into these markets. And with our experience of developing control applications for wind optimization, we feel we're very, very well placed to help the sector here. And as well as looking at wind propulsion, there are some other sectors we're looking at as well. Tidal energy is picking up, and composite structural health. So we're seeing an increased number of drones, be it cargo drones, middle mile cargo drones, being designed around composite materials. So there's going to be a lot of applications for us putting our fibre optic sensors in those. And as you can see at the top right there, Insensys, we've grown from 2002 when we started. We then did have a challenging period following the financial crisis in 2009, but over the last 5 years or so, everything's just been going upwards and upwards for us within wind energy, which gives us a really good platform to build upon entering into the wind propulsion sector. So a bit more on our technology. So we have our sensors, which are installed inside the root section of the blades. And what those sensors are doing is measuring the blades bending back and forth. So we're calculating the blades loads there. That starts an advanced control loop. We send those loads on the blades to the central computer that then calculates the optimum angle for each of those blades and then sends back the control signals so that the blade then pitches to a different angle. This is all about increasing the turbine energy production and therefore reducing the cost of the energy that the turbine is producing. As I mentioned, the offshore wind turbines are a very, very harsh environment. So that's why we've designed our system around that harsh environment requirements. Optical sensors are immune to electromagnetic interference and lightning strikes, and they can be installed and left for the 25 years of the turbine. So there's some real advantages that we can't do with traditional sensing, things like strain gauges. We're trying to bond metal onto the composite materials. They wouldn't last the number of cycles that they would go through. So we've got some unique selling points for our technology here that's then very applicable over into the wind propulsion sector. So we've installed 7,500 systems worldwide. Just to give you an idea of what that would be equivalent to, we've got a staggering number of operating hours of our system there, well over 200,000 operating hours. Now, the turbines that we are installed into, they've been producing energy now for many, many years, and we're in over 7,500 wind turbines. These turbines, by our calculations, I must say that, have produced power for the equivalent of around 121 million electric cars. So we're delighted to have this impact into the energy supply chain here. In total, we estimate we've helped produce somewhere around 204 terawatts worth of energy. And if you were to take all of the turbines around the world that are producing energy at any one time that have our systems in them, it would be about equivalent to around a quarter of the UK's energy consumption at any one time. But as I say, the turbines we are actually installed into are all around the world. So it's just to give you an idea of the scale of the energy production that we're currently involved in. So I just want to come back to another project, another dyno rig project that we were involved in here, and it's just to talk about some of the value that we can extract from putting sensors into these masts. So within this dyno rig here, we have sensors all through the three masts here, and it's measuring the load across the entire sail. Now, by measuring this in the control room, there's an interface there where you can see the load. And the dyno rig vessels can now get pretty much all around the world without using fuel by optimizing these sails, and they can do it with just 2 mast operators. It's so very, very clever how the whole thing operates pretty much on its own. Now, in addition to real-time optimization of that wind capture, we're also logging this data real-time, so we can perform post-analysis of the strains and the loads on those masts. So whereas normally every few years you'd be having to take those masts out and visually inspect them to check that there's no maintenance, we can print off reports being able to demonstrate the load history on these sails, so we're not having to take them out of the boat and perform expensive maintenance. We can also track individual voyages and producing statistics for how efficient the sails were being used and how the boat was being driven. We can even quantify hull impacts through sensing and sensor data It's almost like a tuning fork effect, where even something hitting the bottom will resonate up through the masts as well. So we can see that happening in the sensors. And all of this is providing us and the mast builders and designers a whole load of operational data, so that we can keep developing and making these masts better, cleverer, smarter, cheaper, and lighter. So getting a huge amount of value out of these systems now. Now, in future, this is the last slide I have here, where we're looking at now in terms of the wind-assisted ship technology. This is going to be very different to putting sensors just in a wind prime application, such as these dyno rigs, where we're talking assisted propulsion. These huge container vessels operate in a very different way. So there's different technologies, and it's going to be a different type of control application, we imagine. But we can see real parallels between the requirements of the wind-assisted ship propulsion market going forwards and the wind energy sector as it's evolved. It's all about optimizing wind capture and maximizing energy harness. We can see that there's several big technology solutions all presenting themselves as credible options. But this is, again, similar to wind energy, big engineering requiring big investments. We see different challenges applying these WASP technologies, but combined with moving to greener fuels, this really will start the decarbonisation initiative immediately. We've shown that wind capture control applications in wind energy already work with individual pitch control, and we can be applying these to all of these different technologies coming through into the assisted propulsion. And as I say, we've had 20 years experience helping both the marine sector and wind energy sectors implementing these control applications. So we very much look forward to helping the market continue to evolve over the next few years. So that was all I was going to present today, Gavin. So looking forward to now a nice open conversation from here.
Thank you very much, Chris. That was really, really interesting. And you kept it tight as well on the time, which is excellent. So I've got a couple of questions from the slides that I saw there. You started off, you were in a sense the company was birthed in wind propulsion and the mega yachts sector.
Yeah.
What's made Insensys kind of come back into wind propulsion, bring all that expertise back into this sector?
Yeah, so I think one way of explaining it is, why did we get out of that? And producing the actual masts is so capital intensive that requires an awful lot of money, and you need to have a lot of those projects lined up. And where we got very interested in the sensing technology, so that's why we pushed into trying to find other markets for our sensing technology. Coming back to it now, we wouldn't be trying to make those masts again. That we've lost the knowledge to be able to produce those large composite structures. That's gone elsewhere to other specialists, and we're very, very happy now to work with those specialists. But no, it's because we can see that the technology is getting there, where other people can develop wind-assisted propulsion devices. I think 5-10 years ago, it wasn't economically viable to producing big wind sails to go on these ships. And that's why the market, I think, is now turning towards that, which is why we're then following that market. So I wouldn't say we ever tried to get out of it. We stopped making masts, but we've always been keen to keep supplying sensing systems.
Oh, that's fantastic. Yeah, and I think, I think there's a couple of words that you used fairly regularly there is around optimization. And I think, that the energy harnessing and optimization of the systems is, it's I can't say it's a low-hanging fruit, but it's an area that's incredibly important, especially when you're looking at kit that is, as you say, is expensive to develop.
Indeed, yes, yeah.
Yeah, and along those lines, I mean, you've been involved in onshore wind, offshore wind, and we've seen exponential growth in both areas over the past decade or so. And I think increasingly with offshore wind, that is very much the case. Over the last few years, really seen that ramping up. So you're coming into wind propulsion, you're kind of fresh, or coming back into the wind propulsion sector. You've got kind of fresh eyes in a segment that I would say is probably a decade ago, or maybe 15 years ago, similar to that offshore wind area. What are the kind of comparisons or your perspectives on how wind propulsion sort of compares with that offshore wind development?
Yes, yeah, So There are similarities with where the markets were. So I think from a technology standpoint, wind energy was much more fragmented in technology sort of 10 or 15 years ago. And all that can be done is just invest to test, and eventually the market will come down to a solution or two that will become winners. And I think wind propulsion is probably at that position at the moment. There are quite a few different technologies being trialed. I think there's also the fuel side of things to throw in. The wind assisted propulsion will solve a part of this decarbonisation thing, but there is the green fuel side of things, and there'll be some level of intertwining at some point as well. I don't think we've even looked at how those two things go hand in hand there. I think one thing I saw in wind that was I think with hindsight disappointing was that there was a lot of investment in different areas and there wasn't any pooling of resources in the early stages. I think that's because everyone's battling to be the winner. Everyone wants to come out the winner at the end of it, whereas I feel looking back on it, maybe if a few of the parties could have got together at the beginning, combined some testing or validated some mutual concepts, the market could have saved a number of years by not having 6 individuals going off in 6 different directions. Maybe we could have pulled together and just gone in 3 directions and worked together on some of these things. So maybe that's something that the wind propulsion sector could potentially learn from wind energy, because it's going to take a lot of investment over the next 5 or 10, 15 years, whatever it's going to be. A lot of money needs to be spent. And so trying to make sure that's spent in the most sensible and economical way that we can do, whilst getting testing done as quickly as we can do. I think that's if we can do that smarter than we did with wind energy, then we'll catch up quite quickly.
Yeah, and we are certainly learning, I think, from that hindcast of what developed through wind propulsion, wind energy.
Yeah.
One of the aspects of that I have seen in the UK at least is this, and please excuse the pun, but the regulators or sometimes the government blowing hot and cold on onshore wind, where there's some significant barriers to developing an onshore wind farm, for example, with local planning, et cetera, et cetera. That regulatory side of things, do you see that as a major barrier to the uptake of wind propulsion in a commercial sector?
I don't know. It depends. It depends how we get the regulation started. There was always, with wind energy, there was a paradox where it was so much easier regulatory wise to get a big offshore wind turbine approved, but it takes so much longer to get it operational because it's so much harder to go and install these things offshore that although the government can say, yes, we've approved another wind farm, yes, you're not going to help the energy situation for another 10 years. So I think regulatory wise that could have a big impact on propulsion as well. I think we need to be encouraging people to invest, although we're saying we need to invest in the right areas, but we do need to be investing more and more into this. There's no simple fix to it. And I think, unfortunately, people need to be contemplating the pain of not investing so that they will invest and get on with it. I don't think there's anything else really holding us back from it at this stage, though.
Yeah, no, I do completely agree with you on that. I mean, I think the best way to demonstrate this is to have more demonstrations of it working. And it's a pretty simple equation.
And you use the word equation, and this is it. We're still at the point of writing equations here and trying to write the business case for wind propulsion. And until we can get more testing done, that business case is still a bit airy-fairy. And even if doing scale model testing, at least, and we did this in wind energy, at least doing scale model testing gives you the confidence you can extrapolate that onto a bigger size. You can then look at that business case and go, as long as we still think we're on track for that, let's go now test it. But at the moment, it does feel we just need to get some real basic proof concept testing and some validation testing done after that, and some comparative testing as well. I don't think there's going to be one solution that fits everything. I don't think we're going to find that a wind sail, or this type of wind sail, does every single thing. I can absolutely see that across different territories and geographies, you might have one technology is better going this direction across this type of sea in this environment, and then a different technology for this one, and a different technology will work on a cargo ship from a prime super yacht and that sort of thing. So there's a lot more we need to understand about these things, and it's all very new to us. We've only just gotten to the point where we can actually build these big structures. I think that's again the other reason why this has come to the fore is You know, our ability to create these big, I mean, they are huge wind sails we're talking about now. So 5 or 10 years ago, that was not economically viable. So technology has advanced there, enabling that. So yes, lots of things coming to a head there. But yes, invest and test. I think they're the two key
So the
things.
kind of perfect storm coming together.
Yes, indeed.
Absolutely, absolutely. And actually, what you just touched on there is it's quite a key aspect of development going forward, and I think it's in the news a lot. You're generating, or you will be generating, increasingly a huge amount of data, a large body of information, and in the news right now we have a lot of talk around. It was blockchain a couple of years ago. We've now got artificial intelligence, machine learning, and how important will they be in the near future, and then sort of into that mid to long term future over the next few years, where we have this a large number of additional demonstrators coming in, generating even more data that we need to really start comparing and validating.
Yeah, it's an interesting question. We've touched on that a number of times over the last few years with wind energy as well. Now that we're up to 7,500 installed systems, each system has well over 20 sensors in it as well. So this is running at hundreds of hertz. So across our installed base, we are generating terabytes worth of data here, and there's what 55,000 cargo vessels in the world that we want to be getting the assisted ship propulsion on. Once they have a couple of hundred sensors on the meter, I mean, it is bucket loads of data we are going to be looking at here. That will require huge amounts of data management, and then yes, to process that, we will be requiring AI. I think at the moment, though, that the AI will not be required for a couple of years, because we won't understand ourselves how to teach AI what to be looking at here. And this is similar for wind energy and for wind propulsion as well here. We humans will have to look at some of this data first, and then go back and do the manual hand calculations to work out, right, that data went wonky there. What does that mean? Why did that occur? What happened at that point? We have to correlate it against all these other things, and we then, as human sailors, will then have to use our experience. I say us, I'm not a sailor, but we have to use our experience here to then be able to say, okay, this happened, that made the data look like that. Once we understand that, and we've done that 1,000 times, we understand all the things that happen in the water that can make the sensors show that data set. That's when we can go to AI, and then we can teach AI that this is what you need to look out for. And after that, we can step back, don't have to look at the data ever again. AI will always put its finger up and go, oh, I don't know what that looks like. Or they can tell us, because you human told me this is what it looks like when I run aground, I can tell you we've run aground. So, but until we've seen that in the data, until we've been able to identify that and then tell the computer, this is what running aground looks like, AI won't be able to help us at all. But I absolutely agree that in a few years' time, once we've started going through the first few rounds of data analysis, we will absolutely need an awful lot of AI processing this, because it's going to be huge data to be looking at. But really exciting stuff, and absolutely where the world is going. If we can get this data, surely we want it.
Yeah. And so that leads me to my final sort of big sort of question, or what are the next steps for Insensys? We're over the next, I don't know, 12 months, couple of years, where are you seeing this taking you? Is it refining your systems? Is it really expanding into some of the segments that are growing quickly? I mean,
yes,
where do you see those steps going?
We have a multi-pronged approach to wind propulsion. So I think there's a number of different technologies being trialed at the moment. I think wind sails, for example, I think given our history and given our experience in wind energy, but we feel no need to do testing in that we know the value we can add into that technology. So there we are actively selling our system. We are actively partnering with people wanting to go and do validation of their sails. So absolutely, we're continuing with that technology and that market segment, because we consider we already have system off-the-shelf product ready to go. With some of the other technologies, flattener rotors, for example, the spinning rotors, I think we're at the point where with the pen and paper, we can see there's definitely value that our sensors could apply and control applications could apply. But we do need to get into a real world environment and prove this. And So one technology we're validated in, and we just need to push ahead with getting those installed. And other ones, no, we need to test, we need to quantify what benefits we can deliver there. And then I think the other aspect of it is, whilst we look at these individual technologies, they're individual technologies, but surely we want to produce something more holistic than that. And again, this is where wind energy is getting to at the moment, where 10 years ago, they installed lots of individual separate systems, whereas now almost mechatronics has taken over, and we've now got much more holistic condition monitoring systems looking at all aspects of the wind turbine. And I can imagine that wind propulsion will get there as well. At the moment, we're just focused on putting sails and capturing the wind on top, whereas once we've mastered that, we can maybe start looking what's happening under the boat and look at the hydro side of things as well. So is there some way of pulling together a more holistic hydro and aero model around the entire vessel? Because it's all about optimizing its performance, whether that's gliding efficiently through the water with tons and tons of cargo on the back, or whether it's whizzing through the water, racing your mate in a super yacht.
Yeah.
It's all about optimizing that, and it is much under the water as above the water in the long term. But I think at the moment we just need to focus on the above the water bits.
No, and it's an exciting time to be coming in as well. I mean, there are so many concepts, new ideas floating around, and as you say, I think it's building blocks that open up new opportunities.
Yeah.
As we understand it better, we can see new opportunities developing from there. So yeah, some really exciting stuff. Well, I'm now gonna move on to the little quick fire questions. So
Okay.
these, you can answer these as yes and no, but that doesn't make good TV, I don't think. But single sentence answers are great. And I'll do just 4 or 5 of these quick ones. So on a personal level, Chris, how did you get involved with Insensys, and why did you feel that this was the change to make for Insensys of looking into this new market?
Good luck. Good luck was how I got into this job. I really enjoy my job, and I've had a wonderful career. So no, good luck. That's how I got into this. So yeah, when I joined Insensys, I was 27, and it was my first grown-up proper job. I'd been an immature boy before then, and just run around. This was the start of my career. And no, getting into it was going around, and in my first few years working for Insensys, going and talking to wind turbine manufacturers way back in 15 years ago, and hearing from these pioneers in wind energy. They were really inspiring, and they were going. They didn't know where wind energy was going to go. It was very difficult trying to get subsidies. There wasn't the investment at the time, and yeah, I really respected these people and their passion for trying to create greener energy. And yeah, that's followed me through the rest of my career. And as I say, from an Insensys point of view, we're looking at wind energy. We've got wind propulsion. We're now looking at tidal energy as well coming forward. So yeah, no, just great. I was inspired by joining that. I fell into wind energy, but then I very much fell in love with wind energy after that. So.
Oh, I like that. I like that. Yeah, I mean, actually, on a sidebar, I find it a great privilege to be surrounded by so many innovators, so many people that are smarter than me in the field as well, which is it's a great privilege to be there. And Insensys, okay, so you talked about going, tidal energy, wind propulsion energy, composites, all of these new fields that you're looking into. I mean, wind energy itself is a massive growing market. I mean, it's absolutely huge. So why look into these new niches or new markets that are developing?
Well, I think the markets themselves are just coming to the fore because wider technologies are evolving. And I think some of these technologies are based around composite materials, and it's the ability to bond our composites, our optical sensors onto these composite materials. It's all coming together at the same time. So yes, it's a really interesting point in sort of technology developments that it's all coming together at this point in time. I think also where the wind energy sector has grown, our production volumes are increasing year on year dramatically. So we're actually being able to bring down our costs as well. So our product pricing is reducing as well, which is making it more available to other markets and making it easier for the business case. Is making a lot more sense now than it was even 4 or 5 years ago. So a few things all coming together there that make it the perfect time for us to be getting into this again.
Perfect. And lowering costs I think
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
music to everybody's ears as well. Yeah. So, um, what is the most difficult question you've been asked in, as you come back into wind propulsion? What's the most difficult question that's been fielded?
Yeah. So when I mentioned about trying to measure the wind flow above the vessel and then water underneath it, yeah, someone asked if we could then make a hologram to represent all of that. That's a slightly tough one. That's one of the tougher questions I've been asked.
So, how long will that take to develop?
I, it depends how big a budget. So,
Fair comment.
um,
That would be really cool to see that. I
it
mean,
would.
that would be amazing.
Absolutely. And again, this is where technology, we will get there. It's just whether
Mm.
it's going to be in 5 or 10 years' time. But in terms of optimizing everything, yeah, the hydro flow is going to be as important as the aero flow above the top of it. So yes, I think putting those two bits together, but yes, it will take a few years to do that, I imagine.
Okay, so well, drop me a line when that's ready, because I'd love to see that. Okay, game changer. If you could think of one or two game changers that are coming through. I mean, obviously AI is maybe a general game changer in the future, but in the wind propulsion technology segment, what game changers have you identified, or that you could maybe see coming down the pipeline?
At the moment, I still think that testing is probably the most important thing we could do. The wind energy sector, it really struggled to find places where it could go and do proper testing on a wind turbine, because the investment is so hard. Someone's got to buy a turbine, but accept that it's not going to produce that much electricity, because most of the time it's not actually operating. You're installing a new gadget to go and try, or a new widget. So again, it's who's going to invest in a massive container vessel that we can just play around with, sticking different types of propulsion stuff on there. It's not going to ship any cargo. It's not going to earn us any money. But I think that is going to be one of the bigger game changers. I think until we can do that, until we can do some of this testing and really quantify, do these investments make economic sense? Are we going to see a return here, whether that's through decarbonisation, reducing fuel, or whatever it's going to be? But we need to put some flesh on the bone of these business cases, and because otherwise 2030 we won't have done enough by then, and that will then affect 2050 as well.
Yeah, no, and I think having that validated data, that feeds into regulation, feeds into
Yeah,
taxation, feeds into subsidies,
that's it.
all of the aspects. So I'm seeing elements of that coming through, but more of a concerted effort.
Good. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, my last question is one I always ask at the end of the interview: is, are you hiring at the moment?
Yes, we are. Yes, we are. We have been steadily recruiting for about the last 3 or 4 years. So yes, we've actually we grew significantly through the pandemic. That was incredibly difficult, challenging period. But yes, no, absolutely. At the moment, yes, we've got a number of vacancies that are open at the moment. So yes, very exciting time still. And they're on all levels. We're always looking for engineers. We're an engineering manufacturing business. We do have production vacancies at the moment, and a number of others across the business in terms of business support functions. So yes, we are very, very busy. We are growing all of the time, in multiple directions as well, across different markets. So yes, exciting times as always.
Excellent, excellent. So a deluge of CVs, please.
Indeed, yes, yeah, we have a very busy recruitment officer.
Excellent. Well, look, Chris, it's been a real pleasure, but we're not quite finished, because I'm going to give you a minute or two for your wrap up, for a takeaway for our audience. So
Sure.
handing it over to you. Take it
Sure.
away.
Thank you. So I would probably come back to the final slides that I showed earlier, as the key points. I mean, I think the marine propulsion sector is at a really fascinating point at the moment. It's a real tipping point. We can see these technologies are now available. These technologies are now cost effective, and we just need to work out how to best implement and how to maximize these technologies. I think it's worthwhile remembering this isn't going to be putting a plaster on a small cut thing here. This is a huge change to the entire sector here. I don't think we can make big conclusions about saying we just need to retrofit every vessel out there, or don't bother with retrofits, just go with new. But I think everything's got to be in combination and in balance as well. And I think that whilst we're very focused here on the wind propulsion, we must remember there's other technologies, green fuel things that will have an impact onto some of this stuff as well. And so it is the holistic solving of the problem. It's not all going to come from just picking one blade here. It's going to be a combination of all these different technologies all coming together. It will take investment, it will take time, so we've got to get on with it now, otherwise we're going to miss all our deadlines and our targets. But yes, Insensys is really up for the challenge. We've got 20 years of experience of installing sensing systems into control applications for wind optimization. Give us a shout when you're ready, is our message to the market.
Fantastic, and a great way to wrap that up. So I'd like to say thank you to Chris Knox for joining me today. Thank you very much, Chris. I know you're a busy man, and taking some time out to talk to our audience is fantastic. Thanks very much, Chris.
I really enjoyed it, really appreciate it, Gavin. Thanks ever so much.
And to everybody listening, thank you very much for joining us. I hope you've taken away as much as I'm taking away from this interview, and we will be bringing more Listening to the Wind productions over the next few weeks, few months going forward. So I look forward to welcoming you back. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Gavin.